Let's talk about how we sound when we're recording videos. This is something that I am typically fairly comfortable with. I've always been fairly comfortable getting up in front of an audience, speaking, and that's because I did a lot of public speaking as a child. So I was desensitized, and I was also taught how to use my voice to convey emotion or to make a point or how to project my voice to the other side of a room. Now, not everybody has the luck of having that background. So today I'm going to teach you a little bit about what I know. First things first, what you need to understand is that everybody finds the sound of themselves on tape, not that we have tape anymore, but that's the saying, the sound of themselves on tape, weird. It's almost that uncanny valley feeling. And why that is so? We're used to hearing our voices from in here. The vibration of our voices, the vibration in our ears, it's all enclosed. It's in here. It sounds a lot deeper and a lot different to what anybody else is hearing. So when we hear our own voices back, we're expecting to hear what we're used to hearing from ourselves. And it does not sound anything like what we expect. It sounds sometimes tinny. It sounds higher pitched. It sounds just all round ick. The only way to get through that is to get used to it and get over it, unfortunately. It is a desensitization thing. Because it's natural to not like that sound, to feel uncomfortable with that sound. If you don't know what uncanny valley is, go look it up. It's a really, really cool phenomenon. And this is kind of similar to that. Well, that's how I got to understand it anyway. Next thing with your voice when you are speaking on camera. And now this is going to vary a little bit depending on your microphone setup, whether you're using one of these or one of these, or whether you're using the one that's connected to your earphones. They're all tiny bit different and you will need to play around and experiment with what works for you. But, couple of things. First thing, use an external mic, please. Don't use the one on your laptop. Phones are better than the laptop. Still not ideal. If you can use an external mic, use an external mic. You can position it better. If you have the mic right up close, you'll see that a lot of people when they are singing on stage or some people when they are public speaking will move the microphone right up close, but they're people that are trained to speak into a microphone. If you're not trained to speak into a microphone, you'll end up with all of those poppy sounds or the mouth sounds or those, I'm going to use the word moist sounds, which again, ick factor, right? So, work out the distance that works for you and your particular microphone. If you are using a lapel mic, try and if you're outdoors or you're in a windy area, use the fluffy thing that sits on top that has a gross name that I hate saying, the fluffy thing that sits on top of your microphone. Or if you're inside and you do want to have your mic on, if you do sit it behind a layer of clothing or behind a scarf or something like that, do a test, make sure that there's no rustly sounds on there first. That's just a couple of tech tips as you're getting ready. But when it comes to voice, when you're speaking on camera versus speaking to somebody in person, you need to overdo it. Not just your voice, but any gestures, any facial expressions, but we're focusing mostly on voice for now. So whether that's a little bit of extra volume, where you're pushing your voice out as if you're speaking to somebody on the other side of the room, as opposed to somebody that is right here, even though the implement that you're talking to, the microphone, is right here, you still want to be projecting your voice out there. It comes with a whole different energy than talking here. Not only that, just like how nuance and emotion doesn't come across correctly in text, We've all had those texts, right? Where you get a text and one person sees it as being a bad thing, one person sees it being good, you were fairly neutral. Everybody gets all mixed up. When it comes to trying to convey emotion with your voice via a microphone, you don't have that personal connection that you have. You can't pick up on people's cues and you can't adjust likewise. You need to make sure that you are getting the emotion and the feeling that you want them to see across. Because you can't shift and adjust based on their reactions. You don't have a reaction. Then what you also need to do is make sure that you are clear in what you're saying. That might mean slowing down a tiny bit more than normal. I am absolutely not saying to slow down and keep things at the exact same slow speed the entire time. But you might need to drop your cadence or your speed of speaking just a little, because you need to give people time to catch up. When it comes to speed, another thing there is vary your speed as you're talking. That's a really, really good way of conveying the emotion or the point or what you're trying to get across. If I speed up how I'm talking and I start to really talk really quickly, if I'm trying to make a really, really technical point and I am talking as quickly as this, you're going to miss half of what I say. But what you do get here is excitement. If I talk really, really slowly, if I'm explaining something technical, you're paying attention to every word, or at the very least, every second word. So in those examples, I slowed down and dropped my pitch, or I sped up and I heightened my pitch. Now you'll see my body movements are also changing a little bit with that as well, and that's helping me get those pitches or that cadence myself as I do it. So if you need to stand, I'm okay with sitting when I do this. Sometimes I'll stand to get a little bit more energy, a little bit more room to move. But what you'll find is your voice does actually follow what your body is doing. If I'm all slumped down like this, it's really, really hard for me to show a lot of excitement through my voice. I could probably do it if I really, really wanted to, but it's not easy to sustain and it's not, here's that word again, authentic. But if I'm sitting up, my lungs are opened up, I'm feeling a little bit more free, I'm feeling like I can move a little bit more, I've got space around me, I'm more likely to speak more clearly and more likely to convey more emotion, which is exactly what we want. That's why we're on video, right? Otherwise, we'd just write things down. If all you want to give to your audience is absolute fact with nothing else to it, you might as well write it down. Use the slideshow if you want to. The reason we want to get on front of camera is to try and make a connection with our audience. And we make a connection by conveying what we're trying to get out of our head to the audience. Now, when I said before we need to be more than what we are, that's not just volume. That's not just about projecting to the other side of the room. But that is also showing more animation. That is using more highs and lows. That's using more speed or slow than you would normally. When you're presenting, particularly on camera, and especially in a situation where you aren't getting any live feedback, you're not actually having a conversation, you're just doing a recording, the more you put into it, the more real it actually feels to the person on the other end. The reason for that is they're missing a whole heap of other cues that they would get from you face to face. Either they're not seeing your entire body, they're not seeing you in 3D, they're seeing you in 2D, and they're only getting one part of you. They're only getting this. When you're in person, you might get touch, you might be able to do more gestures, you'll be moving around, you can point to things a little bit more. When you're on camera, a lot of that stuff is reduced, so you really have to make the most of what you've got. And one of the main things you've got is your voice and how you talk and how you communicate your point to your audience. If you keep it monotone, if you don't gesture, if you keep things just at sort of one level, even if you talk like that IRL, in real life, if you don't overdo it a little bit for the camera, most people are going to switch off very, very quickly. They've got nothing else to sustain their interest. If your partner walks into the room when you're recording a video like this, if they don't think you look a little bit silly, you're probably not doing enough. Say it again. If your partner walks into the room, they should think you look silly. It's almost like a photographer that I work with says to me, if the position that I'm getting you to hold or the pose that I'm getting you to hold for this photo, which is typically chin out, chin down, nose down, whatever she wants me to do, generally stick your butt out. If it doesn't feel uncomfortable, it doesn't look good in the lens. So the more uncomfortable a pose feels when you're getting photography done, the better it actually ends up looking when those photos are ready to go. And it's kind of the same for video. If you don't feel a little bit silly at first, like you're overdoing your gestures a little bit, or you're using too much variance in your speech, then you're probably actually coming across really quite boring. And that's probably not what you want. So, practice, close the door if you need to, so that nobody else is around you. And then I want you to test a few things. On your practice recordings, I want you to listen with the screen off, screen down, eyes closed, whatever. Listen without video. Listen to the audio only. Once you've listened, make some notes. Did I start to lose interest at some point? Did I sound really monotone? Was I too close or too far away from the microphone? Was I too loud or too soft? Do that a couple of times. Then I want you to do the opposite. I want you to watch without sound. Did you gesture at all? Did you stay in the exact same spot the entire time? Did you look uncomfortable, or were you hunched over, and did you look bored and uninterested in what you were doing? Were you sitting back like this, like you just couldn't care less? If you take one sense away, and you've really only got the two senses here, sight and sound, take one away and focus just on the one that you're left with in isolation, you'll be able to look at it a lot more analytically, and you'll be able to pick up those reasons why we do need to slightly overdo things, because all of those other senses that we would normally rely on, they're gone. You've only got sight and sound. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm always happy to talk about this, and I've also got a couple of guests in mind that I may bring onto the podcast depending on what questions you guys have. We'll cover them off first as priority. So, hope this was helpful. Always feel free to shoot me through a message or jump in one of the Facebook groups, and I'll chat to you there. Take care. Bye.